Okay, our main topic today is going to be PC decluttering, and I'll be the main presenter. Before we get to the main topic, we have some club things to go through first. Our next meeting is going to be March 20th. That's Wednesday, March 20th here in the Baltic Room, and that'll be on home networking. We'll talk about setting up, we'll talk about mesh networks, security. We've covered this topic before, but things do change every year or two, so it's worth revisiting, and it was a popular item on the survey, so we're revisiting that. We also have coming up in February, on Friday, February 22nd, the MaxSig, and that's held at the 201 Auditorium. If you do have an iPad or an iPhone or a Mac, I highly recommend that you also attend those. And so you can attend one or both of the meetings, monthly meetings in here and in the Apple there. Our officers, Jim Holman is our president. Linda Brown is our vice president. I don't see her. Paul Ebert is our membership secretary. I don't see Paul. But if you do have something for Paul, you can drop it off for myself or Jim, and we'll get it to Paul there. Mike Griffin is our treasurer and MaxSig. Stan Miller is our secretary. I don't see Stan. Andrew Petrucci is our communication coordinator. And I'm Tom Kreuzer. I'm a director at large. Members old and new, Paul is our membership secretary. You can pay your dues. Again, you can give them to Jim or myself. Just a reminder, if you're changing emails, whether you're retiring from 3M or your internet service provider, notify us so that we can keep in touch there. If you do have suggestions for topics, you can talk to any of the board members. We also got some good ideas from the last survey done in December, the end of December. And if you want to volunteer to present on any hardware or software you use, could be at home, could be at work, we're always looking for that. And we do have our monthly eBytes newsletter. If you want to write something, whether it's a sentence or a few things, you can do that also. Okay, our website, I had sent out an email last month that 3M is now blocking access to Google Drive files, and we use Google Drive currently for PDF files. So things like our results from our survey, our handouts, we put those in PDF. Our past meeting slides, those are all in a PDF file. And if you try and access it while you're inside 3M's network, 3M is currently blocking access to that. Well, Jim was showing there, and we're still trying to see if there's some kind of solution, but at this time, the only real solution is access it from at home or from any other network other than 3M's, and you'll be able to access the file, whether to download it or print it or whatever you want to do there. And we do have out on the website the past meeting slides and handouts, meeting recordings we put out there, our deal section, and our monthly eBytes. Any club questions before we get to the main topic? Okay. And you'll just have to follow along with the handout, unfortunately, without our screens up there. But our main topic is PC decluttering, and I'll be presenting Tom Kreuzer. How many have heard of Marie Kondo and her organization? So a few there. Because it's, I think her philosophy is, does it bring joy? And if something brings joy, then you can keep it. And that deals mainly with physical items, but a lot of those same concepts you can use for PC decluttering. There's also Swedish death cleansing, so you don't leave your, when you die, you don't leave this mess. You clean up before you die so that it's easier for the survivors there. But there's many things going on with decluttering and organizing in that. Now, I was surprised to see that actually this past Monday, was National Clean Out Your Computer Day. So I don't know, I think it started 5 years ago or so, but there's a website out there and some information also. And what we all want to do is, with the decluttering and the organization, is to reduce the clutter that we have, that we picked up with all of our stuff over time there. And what I'll hope to cover today is a whole bunch of tips that you can use to get rid of the stuff that can be deleted, and then to organize everything that you have left there. And I mentioned the best time to start is right now. Don't procrastinate. So hopefully after today's meeting or within the next couple of days, you'll go back and do some of these things to try and simplify your life and organize it. First tip I'll talk about is in the email area. And I mentioned in there to have one email account or a main email account in Gmail. I don't recommend that you use as your main account your ISP account, so like a Comcast account or a CenturyLink account. The reason for that is over time, people change internet providers, so you may change from cable to fiber optics, or you change, and when you change and you're using that ISP's account, you're going to lose access to that account. You're going to lose all your old emails, folders, things like that. So I recommend having one that can travel with you and you can use over time and never have to change there. And right now the best one would be Gmail. And Gmail is going to work perfect on Apple products and on Android products. So if you have one or both of those, it's going to work for you. Okay, email. One of the things that you can do is, if you're getting a lot of emails from companies, newsletters, or weekly mailing lists, or things like that, most of those companies will have an unsubscribe that you can do. And that unsubscribed is usually at the bottom of the email for you. If you click on it, you can go to their website and you can choose to unsubscribe from everything or just subscribe to the things that you're interested in. And what I'm talking about here is newsletters, lists, and emails that aren't spam. So spam and virus type emails, those you don't want to be clicking on links within them. I'm talking about legitimate companies. So this is a company that you may have gone out to their website, or you may have signed up for something, and now you're on their mailing list where they keep sending you this stuff. And so you want to go through and unsubscribe to cut down your stuff. If you're using Gmail, Gmail has a nice little feature in it where if it sees an unsubscribed link in the email itself, it'll put a link right up next to who the email is from for unsubscribing. So you don't even have to scroll to the bottom of the email. It's right next to who it came from. So let's say it's something from 3M sending out, and you no longer want to get it. Right next to the 3M address, you're going to see an unsubscribe. Click on that, and that'll take you to their page to unsubscribe there. And if the unsubscribe doesn't work, or there isn't an unsubscribe, we'll be talking later about how you can block or filter this email to delete it or not to have it clog your inbox. Okay, the next tip that we'll talk about is a concept called inbox zero, and that's a concept of your inbox. Every time you work with it, you should attempt to empty out everything in there. So there should be no items in there. Frequently I see people that have hundreds, if not thousands, of emails in their inbox, and they just let it accumulate and add up in there and never really go through and clean it out. But every organizational place will say your goal should be to get that down to zero. What you want to do is you want to read your inbox and move the stuff to a folder if it has to be kept, otherwise delete it. So you want to process it right away there. Do that first check. Your inbox should only have the recent emails from the last time you checked your email. So like maybe from the last day or two, shouldn't have anything older than that in there. To do that, you should have some folders set up, and some of the common folders is you may have a folder for to do today, another folder to do this week, and another folder to do this month. That way, the stuff that you have to act on, you can pop it into one of those folders, and then you can look at it later to actually do what you have to do. Other common folders that people have are a folder for receipts. So if you order something or get a receipt from a company or a website that you went to, it's handy to keep those until the order is completely done and you've received the item. So having a folder out there for that is handy. Another one is health, family, friends, newsletters, projects. So it just depends on what you have going on, what folders might make the most sense for how you should best organize. And you don't have to start out with a lot of folders. Just as you start finding out, I have a whole bunch of these from the church or that, oh, maybe I should create a church folder, or I'm working on this, so I'll create this out there, and that lets you put it out there. Yes?
One thing I've been doing is real helpful. I use a folder I call temporary. So I'm not sure we're going to look at this again, but I put it in temporary and then I have it set up in that box, in that file folder, so that it purges everything in 30 days. And that way that's sort of like an automatic delete. And that way if I go back and find something, usually it's something I need to see where I look for it within 30 days. It works out well.
Okay, no, that's a good deal there, because you know the more email you get, you have to find ways to handle some of this stuff. Ignoring it isn't you know, leaving it in the inbox and again letting that inbox have thousands of items in there isn't the solution to any problem there. I also mentioned here, whenever you open an email, if it's something that requires you to do something, whether it's to look up or respond or whatever, if it takes less than a couple of minutes, then do it right away. If it takes longer than a couple of minutes, put it in one of your to-do list folders, whether it's stuff you plan on doing today, tomorrow, this week, or this month. Put it in one of the to-dos there, and that way you can check those later today or tomorrow or days in the future there. Yes. If all you're doing is moving it from your inbox to another folder, all your messages, that really isn't organizing it. And the goal should be to look through those, and not all of them you have to do stuff. So the first question is there anything I have to do? And if there's something you have to do, then put it in the to-do list. If it's something that you just want to keep for future reference, that's where putting it into one of those other folders makes sense. But just taking everything and moving it, what you end up doing over time is you end up looking at that email multiple times and wasting your time. So you're really wasting time by revisiting a lot of these things. If you can put it in the right spot and use it, you're going to save yourself time. Okay?
One of the ones I do, instead of it being this tomorrow or this month, I actually put the month. So if it's February, and it's like at the end of February, when you look at it again, I just delete everything that was in the February. I already made that decision. But if you say this month, it's like, it's too easy for it to be, geez, that goes back about 8 months. So this month.
Yeah, again, you don't want to leave things in there, but the concept is, well, if you aren't going to get to it or it's not that important, put it in that third category. And the other thing that you didn't see on my screen is when I created those folders for the to-do, I actually put a 1, a 2, and a 3 in front of each one. So the 1 to do today, 2 to do this week, 3 to do this month. And the reason for that is then they sort to the top of my list. And so when I want to move stuff to folders or see my folders, those are the first 3 folders that I see. So you can do some things there to get your folders in the order of the things that you use the most and how you operate there. Okay. Emails, another thing is you can create filters. Filters for the emails let you delete them automatically or send them to a folder. And I've got a nice little graphic that you can't see, but it shows a little funnel, and the emails coming in, and the filter system either moves this stuff into the bad emails or the garbage, and the good emails into a folder there. And if you use a package like, well, all the packages let you set up these filters, and the filters have criteria. And the criteria, you can check who it's from, the subject, has these words in it, doesn't have these words in it, or size. So you can set up these very elaborate rules or unelaborate. Whenever you see the word PCC, you could have it put it in a folder for PCC. So there's ways to automatically filter things there to organize it. Okay, Gmail, and I believe Hotmail now has it too, is if you're getting large numbers of emails and you don't want to set up filters and you don't really use folders that much, Gmail has a feature that can be turned on, and it's called Priority Inbox. And the Priority Inbox is a Google feature that uses artificial intelligence to try and determine which emails are most important to you and which emails aren't that important to you. And it'll start segmenting them out into these different categories. And as you start moving stuff from this is important or this person is important, it builds these rules in the background so that the next time an email comes in, it gets put into the important folder or friends and family folders, or that it has excuse me, it has four different boxes that it uses by default. Excuse me. And that can be set, I mentioned in here, in the Gmail settings, which is the little gearbox icon, in the inbox, in the type, and then the priority inbox there. Oh, here, maybe we'll get a display here. They're on. And we turn them all off and back on.
That's your functioning forward.
Yeah, or currently it's yeah, this is see, it's duplicating it on both there, and I do see. Okay, let's see. We'll just start. So the priority inbox is something there that you can use to, if you don't want to go through, set your own filters, do your things, you can go in and let it try and do things. I prefer to have a little more control and stuff like that, so I don't use a priority inbox. The other thing I mentioned here is use your calendar rather than your inbox as reminders. So this kind of goes against some of the stuff that we were talking about, your to-dos. Well, to-dos are kind of different than reminders. If the email truly is just a reminder for an event or something like that, instead of keeping it in your email, use your calendar and put it on your calendar there. And so rather than kind of combine the two functions there, you're best just to use a calendar entry and put it in there. And then I mentioned in here, about every year or so, go through your folders, delete old folders that you no longer need, maybe old projects, maybe old things that you worked on, and delete the emails, because there's no sense keeping lots of old stuff around there. Yep.
How do you have a good methodology for canceling or shutting down the email address?
The canceling, if it's a legitimate company, that unsubscribe will usually work. So if you're getting emails from, let's say, the Minneapolis Star and Tribune, and you no longer want to get those, unsubscribing is going to work fine there. But if it's spam, that they have no unsubscribe and it doesn't occur there, that's where you can either, in packages, you can either set up a filter. So I could say everything coming in from this person or this address, delete.
What I meant is, let's say you have a Tom at Yahoo and you're a Tom at Gmail. You don't want to use the Yahoo. What's a good way to say you're done with Yahoo? You can stop checking.
There's a couple of things there. If you have an old email and you truly don't need it anymore, Google how to delete the account. And you'll find the exact steps, and it varies from every provider.
Things like auto reply.
Yeah. Now the other thing, if you just want your Gmail to be your main, and you still want to keep your Yahoo, then what you can do is you can do an auto forward to forward that stuff to your other account. So rather than on your phone, you can set up multiple accounts and switch back and forth between the accounts. But if you don't have that many emails that come in, it's easier to just set up an auto forward where everything coming in there gets sent to your other email account. And right. Yep. Yeah, some of them will let you migrate or at least download or do the stuff there. Okay? Okay, pictures and videos. I mentioned here, make digital copies, get rid of the paper photos, album books that you have and stuff like that. We've talked before in July of 2016 on scanning, so how to scan your photos. If you have larger pictures, we talked about using the Google Photo Scan camera app. That lets you take multiple pictures, get rid of glare, get the sharpest image there. So you digitize these so that you don't have to have all these paper copies around there. I mentioned here, make digital copies of your VHS, Super 8, and DVDs, even if you've got some old ones of those. Movies are huge. The files can be very large, but most of them are very boring. If you took your kid's basketball game and you've got 2 hours of basketball or an hour of basketball, nobody wants to sit through that. Before you decide what to keep, it's best if you go through there, pick out a few 20, 30-second clips and save those. You don't have to, nobody's ever going to want to watch this whole game or this whole play or whatever. You can go through and edit and shorten it down and make it usable. This is a nice little application for finding duplicates of your photos. And if you take burst photos where there's multiple images or stuff like that, you should be going through and just keeping the best one and deleting the other ones instead of keeping 3 pictures or 5 pictures of that are virtually the same with just a little different expression there. I recommend using a package called BusyPix. It's free, and you can find it at this site here. And let's do this. This is what it looks like, but let's bring it up here if I can find it. Okay, so this is what the package looks like. The package lets you put in the folders that you want it to search. So you can have it search all of your pictures, or if there's just certain directories that you want. You can have it ignore folders, and then you can set, when it compares, what kind of rule does it use? Is it very strict that it has to be almost a complete match, or can it be very loose, meaning that it's close? Doesn't have to be exact there. So this is better than just doing file compares of names and dates and size and that. This is actually looking at the image that is in there and comparing it. So what it'll do is, well, here, let's bring up. So like this is one. This is an image that I have in here. This, and I have it, this is my sister back in 1969, and I scanned in a lot of these images, and I happen to have a second copy that I put in 1967, and you can see there, it's obviously there's differences there. This photo had tear in it and stuff like that, but because of the loose, it identified. And the nice thing about this, if I want from this package, I can go here, I can mark it, and then I can do a delete, and I can get rid of it. But it also, because I had loose here, these are some of my cousins. Well, these are 3 different cousins, but because they all wore the same shirt and basically had similar haircuts and stuff like that, it compared them as equal there. But it'll go through your entire library and find. Here's some of my brother. Now you can see this is different, different insofar as they're looking at different people and stuff like that. But because of the loose compare, it shows that. So it's really a nifty package there. If you have a lot of photos, my photos, I believe on my computer, took 3 hours to scan. So it can take a while to scan. Now I've got 50,000 photos or that, and you want to make sure if you have separate directories where you keep originals and you keep the edited ones, you don't want to compare the original to the edited, otherwise you're going to end up with all of it. You're going to have duplicates for all those. So that's where you can say, ignore the folders where my originals are in, and just look at these folders or things like that.
This program just works locally on your computer?
Just works locally on the computer, yes, yes. There are lots of other packages. If you use the old Picasa has a thing called Duplicate Finder, and so there are other packages. This one I found to be very fast, easy to use, and stuff like that. No, it's a free package. Free package. And it does it. You don't have to complete all of this at one sitting. So if you go through and scan, there's a way to save your scan or save your project and open it up a week later and go back in and do stuff. So you don't have to keep scanning each time you use it or that. And it'll like well, hey, give it a try and you'll see how many and that. So you know, it is kind of handy, but it lets you figure out, you know, well, is it something that, do I want to keep all 3 of these, even though they're different expressions, or should I really get rid of one there?
So this is just for comparing, it's not for editing?
This is just comparing, does nothing else other than compare. This is the screen you see, this is all it does. I mean, you can delete them. That's it. But you can't edit. And frequently, what I do when I use it is it's a case of I don't delete the items in here. I usually go back to I'm still using Picasa. I go back to Picasa delete them out of there, because if I've got two that are in different years, I have to decide which one do I really want to keep. Well, I have to see it in the context of everything else. So I usually go in there. But if you're scanning things, this is very nice there, because frequently when you scan, you may have duplicates from different albums or different people. This will find them all. So it's really nice there. Any other questions on that?
So, I have a question.
Yeah?
The burst, how do you look at just the one of the burst? Or what, how do you select just one of the burst thing? I never figured, I just delete that when I see the burst. And I don't even know how I got it, you know? But
Well, the burst, if you're not familiar, on your camera, on your tablet, if you take a picture, and most of the packages, if you hold it down for a second or so, you'll get 3 or 5 pictures. It'll take bang, 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 bang.
Okay.
And the rationale there is, if you're trying to get the right expression or things like that, especially with kids, doing a burst, one of those pictures should have them all looking forward instead of their necks craned or something like that. When you review it, it'll usually you'll see a little icon down below, and it'll say that it's a burst shot. And when you hit delete, it'll say, do you want to delete all of them, or do you want to just delete the ones that keep this one and delete all the others? So it has a mechanism in there, but right. Okay, pictures and videos. Be ruthlessly honest about pictures. Delete blurry pictures, delete unflattering pictures, delete poorly exposed stuff. People tend to want to keep everything, and nobody wants to look at old blurry photos or things like that. So be honest and just keep the stuff that really makes sense there. This was a good tip that I found. It said, pretend that you're a museum curator. Which photos are the best representation to tell a story? Because that's what you're doing with pictures. You're trying to capture a time or a moment or stuff like that. Which photos best represent what you're trying to tell? Keep those photos as mementos. Get rid of the rest. Don't hoard. Don't keep everything. I mentioned in here, limit scenery photos. So when you take a photo of scenery and there's nobody in the picture, there's no family member or anybody that you know in the picture there, you really don't have to take them, number one, to begin with. But number two, if you do take them, you can usually delete them, because you can go out to the web and you can find a higher quality picture, better light, better composition, better everything there. Just use those if you do want to have a picture. So if you go to Rome and the Colosseum, if you think you're getting the best picture of the Colosseum, just do a Google search on images and Colosseums, and you'll find 1,000 that are better than what you have. And you can use that instead of spending your time taking the picture and then keeping it and organizing there. I mentioned in here, delete photos of people you don't know or care about. So maybe years ago you knew them, but you no longer care about it or that. Or you went on a trip with them, but you no longer need to see those photos, and the rest of your relatives that may look at your photos no longer need to see them. So go through and get rid of that stuff. Okay. Well, divorce you could edit and you could cut out or put X's, or there's fun things you can do there. Maybe the dartboard needs stuff, but there's fun things that you can do. Okay, some of the other things to keep. If you're creating documents or spreadsheets, you have to think about whether you need to keep that or not keep that, because that's something that's not available anywhere else. And so is it a document or a spreadsheet that you're going to be updating and keeping in the future? Well, then you definitely want to keep it. But if it's just a one-time document, can it be deleted when you're done? And you can see here the life cycle. of typical documents you create, you store, you retrieve, you distribute, and you dispose. And this may happen within 1 day. Yes.
One of the things I do is I've got a folder called temporary.
Yeah.
I have a temporary Word document, a temporary spreadsheet, and some other temporary files. If I want to do something I know at the end of the day I don't want anymore, I just put it as a temporary and then automatically overlay it as I go on.
Yep, that's a good tip, and yeah, and then you've always got it there. If you do the next tomorrow or something, you might need something and you haven't done it. But okay. Common misconception: IRS records. People think they need to keep them 7 years, or some people keep it forever there. The rule is you only have to keep it for 3 years. So you don't have to be keeping everything forever, is what it is. And frankly, most bank and brokerage sites provide you with online access and tax statements, so you don't have to keep those files or that either. You can go out to the brokerage site. Yes.
One caveat there.
Yep.
I ran into this. I made a mistake on my taxes and I got audited. It turned out I didn't have to pay anything. But it's a good story. But I had to get some bank records. PCF. They only went back so far. So they only went back whatever it was. If it was last year, I didn't go back like 24 months. So I had to buy some extra copies from them. So what I do now is when I get the online statement, I save the online statement.
Yeah, most banks are that will let you go back at least the 3 years.
For a charge.
At least the 3 years, usually free of charge. Beyond that, but I mean, there are certainly some that, if it's images of checks and things like that, that's a little different too. But if it's a bank statement, the statements usually are available or things like that. But and if you do have tax documents that you didn't get from online or aren't available online, that's where I recommend scanning the documents. And then you can keep them on your computer, and you don't have to keep paper copies of those either. So if you get a W-2 and it's not available anywhere else, you can scan it and then keep it that way. And then at the end of 3 years, you can delete it there. Okay, deleting other files. Now that you've decided what to keep, there's things to delete. We looked at the BusyPix earlier. That's for comparing pictures. Well, what you can do is frequently people will have duplicate files on their PC. They've just moved stuff around, they put it in other folders, and so a package like this, and I'm recommending CC Cleaner, will help you identify duplicate files. And CC Cleaner, I mentioned here, in 2017, CC Cleaner was hacked. The software was hacked and contained malware. It had pop-up ads and some things like that. It no longer has that, but some people don't use the package because they assume it's still infected, and it's no longer infected, but it is a package that's out there. There are other packages out there, so if you don't want to use this, do a search and look around. Currently, CC Cleaner is owned by Avast, who makes antivirus software, and it's something that I still use. And to give you an idea here, let me do this. So if I bring up CC Cleaner, and under the tools, duplicate finder, and this you can match by name, size, modified date, or the entire contents there. And then you can have it ignore, in my case I'm having it ignore system files, hidden files, 0-byte files, and I'm going to have it search all the user directories there. So I'm going to click on this. This is a very fast program. So like I talked about, the pictures taking 3 hours to go through. This will go through all of my user directories in 20 seconds. It went through and scanned. And you can see here, here's a bunch of files. I have a video, which is a timer, and it's in 4 different directories here, in these different directories out here. But this is a quick way to go through and check to see if you've got files that are the same name, size, and that. And then similar type of deal here. I can go here if I want. I could highlight as many of these as I wanted, and I can do delete, and I can get rid of the files right here. Okay. Any questions on CC Cleaner or that? Okay. Okay, music. If you use iTunes for your music, iTunes does have a feature in there where if you go to File, Library, Show Duplicate Items, it'll show you the duplicate songs that you have. And now the song may be on a different album or by a different artist, so you don't just want to go through here and delete everything, but you can see like here, Across the Universe by the Beatles on the Let It Be album. Well, it's also by the Beatles on the Best of 1967 to 1970. But you can decide here again, is it truly a duplicate or is it something that you want to keep? And again, depending on how large your library is, you may have hundreds, if not thousands, of duplicates there. Okay, next, deleting within Windows itself. Windows 10 came out with a tool called Storage Sense, and Storage Sense is a tool that I recommend if you do a lot of work on your computer, maybe once a month. Otherwise, you can do it once a quarter or once a year. And you can find it by going into the settings, system storage, and free up space. If you've used disk cleanup in the past, this is the replacement for disk cleanup. In Windows 10, disk cleanup is still out on Windows, but that will be going away maybe in the next year or 2 years. So you're best to start using Storage Sense to replace it there. And that'll let you delete Windows Update files from past updates, temporary files from software or apps if they put them in the right directories, temporary internet files from the Microsoft browser, the Edge and IE, downloaded files. Make sure you do not have files in there that you wanted to keep, that you downloaded and never moved to another directory before you delete everything in your downloads. The recycling bin, Windows temporary files such as error reports and logs, and thumbnails of pictures, videos, or documents showing when a folder opens. So this is what Storage Sense looks like. Let me do this. So if we go here, I'm going to Windows Settings, I'm going to System, I'm going to Storage. Within Storage here, you see Storage Sense. And I'm going to click on Free Up Space now. Now it's doing a scan of my computer here. And it'll give me a list here of the files that I can potentially delete. And if I check the box there and then do delete, it's going to delete the files there. So this is a quick way to do that disk cleanup or cleaning up files that Windows has accumulated or you've gotten on your machine over time there.
How important are those delivery optimization files? It sounds like you want to keep those, but then I've been deleting them. But really helpful.
Technically, you can delete everything that it puts in here. So this is similar to the update files and that. If you were to try and do a restore and you didn't have the update files, then it's going to have to download those files again. So that's the rationale. But how many times have you done a restore? Most people have never done a restore, but if you do have to do a restore, that's where having some of the old files could be a benefit. But if you don't have them, it'll download them. So it goes out to Microsoft and downloads them. Yes?
you hear of a problem I experienced a couple of weeks ago where all of a sudden my hard drive was almost full, and it was a Windows problem, and I was Googling it, trying to fix it, and then it also affected my recycle, where my recycle bin was so full I could not empty it. And finally I got it resolved, and I can't say for the date because I remember how I did it. But it seems to be when I Google it, kind of a common problem.
Now it is working.
Yeah.
It's working now, but it was a mess.
Windows always creates a cache, so if you don't have that much memory and that it'll use part of your hard disk as memory, and if it doesn't free that up over time, that can just keep taking another chunk and another chunk. But I haven't heard of that problem lately. The only problem where I've heard running out of memory is I know some people that have laptops now, and these laptops come with some of the laptops come with solid state hard drives, and these solid state hard drives are small hard drives. They may be 64 gigabytes or 32 gigabytes. I've seen a 32 gigabyte, and that barely holds Windows. So if you start putting anything out there, you run out of space. It can't do updates. It can't do this other stuff. They say, well, go out and clean stuff up. But even after you clean it up, there's no room to really do anything. Yeah. Well, and I'll mention that in another slide or two. But in general, there's hundreds of packages out there to improve performance, delete things, and they're all kind of doing the same things in the background there. If you feel more comfortable using another package or that, then go ahead and do it. The important thing is do something. Don't just let the stuff accumulate out there. So this went through it. It found a bunch. You check the ones that you want, and then you click Remove Files, and it'll do it. The settings here, if I go back here to the storage sense, there's change how we free up space automatically. So it can automatically go through and do some of this cleanup for you too. I don't turn on the automatic part. I prefer to do it myself, and I know when I'm doing it. But you can go in here and you can tell it what to delete, and it'll delete it when you're running low on space out on the hard drive or things like that. Okay. If you're using another browser like the Chrome browser or Firefox, the Windows isn't going to delete its cache for that, so you do have to go into that browser and clear the cache within the browser there. And here I list for Chrome how to do that. Remove extensions. If you have added extensions to your browser, you can go in and you can turn them off, and if they truly aren't providing a function that you need, then you could delete it. And this is where you can go in within Chrome to do that. I mentioned here uninstalling programs or apps that you haven't used in the last year. So when you do go in there, take a look, and if you don't recognize what it is or you haven't used it, you can delete it or uninstall it there. Also, I mentioned here, you can stop programs from launching when Windows starts up. So you can go to the startup there and also check things out there. And this is that point about there's lots of software out there to clean and optimize your PC. If you have CenturyLink, you have the Norton antivirus, it has a feature in there called Performance. That goes through and does things similar to the Windows Sense cleaning up files and that. Okay, now that you know what to keep and what you've deleted, you should be organizing what you have. And by default, Windows creates these directories, these high-level directories out there for each user. You have 3D objects, desktop, documents, downloads, music, pictures, and videos. And you should be using those folders for putting the appropriate files that you're going to be keeping in there. I don't recommend that this downloads folder should be a temporary holding area where files get downloaded, and then you move them to another folder where you'll eventually keep it, or you delete it there. The desktop folder, some people will put documents or files on the desktop. I don't recommend that. So if we look here, they'll just drop a Word document or a spreadsheet or things like that on the desktop and work on it that way. I don't recommend that. I recommend keeping your desktop with just the icons and not physical documents. Now you can see here I have the presentation I'm giving today. That's on here, but that's a shortcut or a link to the document that's actually stored in another directory on my machine. So it's not physically the presentation, it's just a link to that document. Okay. Documents, within the documents folder, you should have subfolders like DOC, Excel, manuals, help, tools, creative, kids, whatever makes sense on how you organize your things there, but you'll have subfolders underneath there. The music folder, you should have subfolders in there by artist, album, and songs. And if you use a package like iTunes or Microsoft Music or Google Music, and you rip CDs or you do stuff, it'll automatically create those directories for you. Pictures and videos, you should have subfolders under there, and I recommend having subfolders for each year, 2019, 2018, 2017, all the various years. Optionally, subfolders below a year might contain events. So if you had a wedding and you took a lot of pictures at a wedding, you may want to organize that wedding underneath the year there. And in addition, you can create other folders at that high level. So if you're temporarily working on things, I have an _work directory. Contacts, I keep all pictures of my contacts in one spot. So I have a folder called Contacts. And if you edit and keep originals, you may want to have a directory with originals and then the years underneath there. As you scan things, you should have a scan directory and maybe other ones for a health savings account, or if you do process a lot of scans for that, you may have a separate folder for those. Photo tags. Let you put in criteria to help you identify. Could be a word or words. Photo can have multiple tags. So you may have a photo with multiple people in it, and you tag it with Ted Smith, Andy Smith, Sue Smith, and Christmas 2008. Just makes it easier when you're searching for things. It can search through those tags, and it can find those things a lot faster. Tags are updated and stored in the photo file, which means that if you copy and move it to another disk or another package or whatever, it all goes with it. There isn't a separate database or something that might get lost and you'd lose all those tags. They're individually in each file. I recommend renaming your photo files from the original camera name, and you can select the photos that you took in the same year, month, day and rename them, and use a strategy like year, dash month, dash day, and then a unique number. Sometimes you might want to add a word or two. So if it's a birthday, you could say the birthday, or Christmas, you could say that in the name also. Yes?
Is there an easy way to do that? I remember a number of years ago, I had trouble getting them renamed and getting them to go in the order I wanted them to go, and resorting them back into the
All depends on the package that you're using. I use Picasa. Picasa has a very easy way of doing it. You can get them in the order that you want, select them all, do an F2, put your template that you're using, and it'll automatically increment up the number at the end, and it'll leave, the year. It'll leave the first part there and just increment the number at the end there. So it depends on the package there. I mentioned here, we talked a little bit about email and the folders within there. So make sure you create your folders in your email. Browsers, same kind of thing. Browsers, you're saving bookmarks. Well, you can organize your bookmarks. And that high-level organization, you can kind of use the same strategy as your emails and your other folders. So utilize the same naming for some of the high levels and that, and you can keep things straight of where did I put it, or where this is health, or this is 3M, or this is this. You can find things easier.
One other
Yes.
thing, sometimes what it's good to do is go out and actually rename it. When you make a bookmark, rename it, because sometimes the name that you get, you're, where was this? I don't remember.
Yeah, depends. It depends on the package you're using too. Some of them, when you create it or click the star to save it as a favorite, it'll pop up and you can rename it at that time. But if you didn't rename it, or it's got the URL name, yeah, by all means go in, make it meaningful, and get it in the right there. Okay. Paper clutter accumulates quickly. You have to stay ahead of the game on top of it. Most banks, utility companies, and that will let you opt out of getting email. So, I mean, I opt out of getting a physical copy in the mail there, so that you just get an email notification and you can view the stuff online. And I highly recommend that. You can then use their online bill pay systems to pay your bills. It eliminates stamps. It's kind of a win-win there. Try not to print or download PDF files. I know Chuck talked about downloading from the bank there. If your bank doesn't give you access to the last 3 years or whatever for free, that's certainly a strategy there to download and save that PDF. But if all possible, if it's going to be out there, there's no sense you having a copy and the bank already having a copy. If you need it in the future, you can go back to the site. And if it is kind of buried within the site, you could bookmark even where it's located. For those paper bills, documents, or statements that are not available online that you must keep, similar to the photos, scan the documents there and then rename them. And when you rename them, use that same strategy as the photos: year, month, day, and a company name. And that way, you can see when this scan was done and delete the old stuff that you no longer need.
Is that, okay, it's not real obvious on my scan or how you rename that scan. And it caused me some trouble putting my YSA in there to put the wrong scan in there.
Well, it is similar to the question on the photos. I manage all my scans and my photos in Picasa, and Picasa lets me rename them. So that's just a separate directory that instead of photographs, it's the scans.
So you send the scan to a picture file, more or less.
Yes. I keep mainly, although I do some things as a PDF, but most everything I do is a JPEG. I'll scan it as a JPEG. Yeah, all the packages, all the printers allow you to do it either way. If you have multiple pages, it'll automatically number them, different file names. So I'll take a 6-page document and I'll scan it all, and then I do a save, and then you choose how you're saving it, as a JPEG or a PDF, and then it'll put its own file name, but then I go in and rename it to the name that I want.
What's more annoying too is it's too small to actually see what it is. And it's compressed, the scan is compressed to the point that you can't tell what it was. And that's really annoying. That's what mine does.
It shouldn't be. I mean, oh, you mean the utility that you're using to scan? Yeah, that can be. But if you then open up Picasa and look at it, you'll see it just like any other photo. You can enlarge it, you can print it, you can rename it.
Right, I can do that.
Right.
It's another step.
Right.
I usually just scan things to the document file, open it up, and then right click on the scan and name it there.
Yeah. So yeah, multiple ways. File manager is a last resort, but you should be using another package to organize your photos and scans, and that is just another file there. Okay. Most of the manuals are available online, so if you do a Google search, you can usually find them that way. When you get a new piece of paper that details an upcoming event, rather than keep that piece of paper, create a calendar event, you can take a photo of it if it has details and stuff like that and attach it to the calendar event, and now you've got all the information and you no longer have to keep that piece of paper or put it up on the refrigerator where people won't look anyway or rarely look or only see it after. If you do those, you'll be amazed at how little paper you actually need in your life. You can get rid of everything. I have a brother-in-law that used to have 4-drawer file cabinets, so one upstairs and one downstairs, and he'd keep almost everything, utility bills and all kinds of stuff. Was never going back there. It was just an exercise and kind of wasted time there, getting in the paper and filing it. You should be able to get rid of almost all your file cabinets to the point where you have next to no filing. With digitizing things, availability out on the internet of a lot of the data, you shouldn't really need much of anything there. Don't keep paper that you file away and never use. And we all do that, and people don't want to get rid of it. And it's a double-edged sword, because if you keep those old bank statements, or oh, I gotta have that copy there. No, you don't need that copy. I reconcile my checkbook online, and there's packages to do that, and so you don't need to print that out. And if you print it out, then you most of them have an account number on there, so you can't just throw it in the recycling. You have to shred it. Well, see, you've just created more work for you, and it really isn't needed. So if you don't get it in the first place, look at the stuff online. If you have trouble looking at stuff online, get a bigger monitor. Monitors are cheap. So there's ways to get stuff there. Any questions that anyone has there?
Well, one comment is that 3M was very nice at not saying, you tell me what you sent me this scan for. It has nothing to do with your YSA. So.
But yeah, I mean, we're all getting lots of emails and lots of stuff in the mail. If you look at, can I opt out of this stuff and not get the physical paper copies anymore from Excel or from wherever, or that, you can still get your copies online of receipts and things like that. And again, I'll store those in a receipt folder, but I don't keep them forever, because 99% of the stuff you don't have to keep. The few things that you might have to keep because it has a warranty or stuff like that, that's a file that you can decide to save off into an area and keep it that way. But to keep every receipt from everywhere forever, it just doesn't make sense. So.
Even if you do delete all your emails, they're still there somewhere.
It depends. When you first delete it, it goes to the delete folder or label there, and depending on how it's set, after 30 days or 60 days, it'll get deleted out of there.
But I mean, it's still somewhere.
Yeah, I mean, technically, the
I won't get into politics, but it's still somewhere.
Google has it somewhere. Now, you may not have the immediate access, but figure out the stuff that you need and the stuff that you really have to keep.
But this is not the security. This is the gateway to clutter.
Any other questions or comments? Yes.
You are a fan of Declutter. Do you see any advantage to upgrading the paper and bringing
The free version has a lot of, again, it gets back to features that you're trying to do or what you're trying to do in there, and before you pay good money for stuff, certainly do a Google search and look around. There's lots of stuff out there because there's millions of shareware packages and stuff like that. You can usually find something, try it out, see if it does what you want and how hard or easy it is to use. But there's a lot of good stuff, and the fact that you paid money for software doesn't mean that it's going to be that good. I'm in the position now, I'm a Quicken user. Well, Quicken has been sold off, and there's the quality of the updates and what they want for it. I would, in a heartbeat, want to switch to something else, but I can't find anything else that does everything that Quicken is doing for me. So you end up, and that's the same way I am with Picasa. Picasa is still doing everything that I want, and I'm not going to pay Adobe Photoshop $14 a month or whatever for a subset of the features that I got for free before. So you kind of have to keep your eyes open and
use the free version.
right. Try it out, see what you want. But even within CC Cleaner, there's lots of features in there that there's already Windows software that does the similar thing. So most people haven't been into Windows and looked at the utilities and the things like Disk Cleaner and Optimizer and Defragger and stuff like that. There's a lot of those utilities already out there. They've just never looked. Okay? Okay, well, thanks for coming today.